Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
America. America. The great United States of America. Love it or leave it, but don't stay here and take advantage of it. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by, come on, Patriots, call in with the Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning on this Tuesday. And I love that lady singing, and she will remain on this program, even though there are those that say, oh, get rid of her, she's racist because of some songs that she put together and sang, almost 90 years ago? Good heavens. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch, and of course brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best of driving tires. And of course, don't forget too some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Let's go to the phone line right now and have a real patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, I love the way you do the pledge wheels, but I'm going to say this. It bothers me a little bit that we don't have other patriots calling in. It should be an honor to say the pledge on our program.
Of course, I understand that, sir, but, you know, I'm glad that I can do the
You're there. You're there, and we appreciate it, and thank you. Right now, let's take a look at the weather forecast, and the weather brought to you by K&R Rental, and they're located at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn, and Roger's always there along with the rest of the crew to help you any way possible in getting the rental of the best tools and equipment you need to finish any kind of a construction project, okay? If you're not sure what you need, all you got to do is call them on the landline, 678-3122. That number again, 678-3122. K&R Rental, right there smack dab on the Burley Paul Highway, K&R Rental. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Red flag warning is in effect for today through this evening. Here's a look at your weather forecast, and we are in a red flag warning due to the possibility of thunderstorms, possible lightning strikes as we make our way towards the afternoon. We are expecting partly sunny skies, and it's going to be on the warm side, high of 93. We are expecting an overnight low of 63. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, cooling off to about 88, mostly clear for tomorrow night with a low of 55. And then for the rest of the week, looks like sunny skies. Slight chance of afternoon thunderstorms are a possibility as we make our way towards the weekend, expecting highs in the 90s. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Gina, good job. Good job. Thank you. Don't forget the best tools and equipment are right there at K&R Rental. And I'll tell you what, if you have questions, don't hesitate to call. And they've got all the excavators, and they've got all the mowers and the different sizes of tractors. They've got it all for you to finish the job at K&R Rental. 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn, 678-3122. 122 K&R Rental. Want to remind you, too, Thursday is sale day at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Oh, yeah, I can hear the chant in the background with Merv May already. The sale that works for you. Merv May, Cade Rogge, and Lance Udy. Number to call for cattle consignments and sale information, 678-9411. Don't forget Thursday sale day, 10:30 at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard in Burley. Wow, got a great program this morning, and I got to tell you what happened yesterday on the phone. I can't wait to get into that in just a moment. 9:06, we got Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance, and he's going to be coming on, and we're going to be talking. He's in Washington, D.C., and very aware of Idaho Power going green, and he's going to talk about that with me. Then at 9:30, we've got Dr. Michael Bussler coming on, a well-known economist, and he's going to be on the program. 10:06, Dr. History, and then 10:32, David Rubin talking about all the attacks on Israel. Going to be interesting. Don't forget Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Oh, my. All your clothes cleaned, and if you haven't had time to do your washing, hey, don't store it up in your closet, monkey. Take it in there. They will wash, dry, fold, and iron all your clothes, just like Mama used to do, and they really do a jam-up great job. Let me tell you something. Every time I've been going there for years, and the clothes come back looking brand new. Yeah, they do. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see Kevin and Cindy today. This is Lunch Bunch Week, and Thursday this week we're going to be over at Denny's Restaurant. And I want to reiterate that, come on, folks, please help me out a little bit. Bring your friends and neighbors, your relatives, if you can stand to ride in the same car with them. And everybody be at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. And they also have another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. I'm talking breakfast. I'm talking dinner. I'm talking lunches. I'm talking anytime, all the time, desserts. Woo, it's a great place to eat with really nice people serving you at Denny's Restaurant. America's Diner, 611 North Overland in Burley. Yep, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. And we also want to thank for our door prizes Walmart, Smith's Foods, Hanson Mortuary, Stokes Groceries, Doug Martin, and Denny's. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. On this Idaho Power thing, you're not going to get any information out of them unless you get on their website. Now, my suspicions tell me that there's talk about putting nuclear reactors in Idaho here, and I think maybe they're getting it in cahoots with the people that want to put these power plants up in Idaho.
Well, yesterday, I'll share this with you and everyone right now. Yesterday was an amazing day to me. I had to leave right after the program, and I had a doctor's appointment. Deanne had a doctor's appointment. But we had a lot of calls come in on my cell phone from people regarding the Idaho Power cowardice and arrogance to not come on this program and answer valid questions in a respectful manner about going green energy and the very strong possibility of weakening our power source and costing us, the ratepayers, a lot more money. I could not believe the amount of people that called and said they were ashamed and appalled that Idaho Power would be such cowards.
Well, the people are going to have to, instead of calling you, they're going to have to call and demand from Idaho Power. I mean, really flood that place with calls, because the operators have been programmed not to give out any information except get on the website.
Well, wouldn't it be, honestly, think about this, Tony. I disagree with your assertion that they should call the company. Wouldn't it be a lot easier when I offered a forum, even if I don't agree with green energy, to come on my program in a respectful tone and answer questions and lay it all on the line and let the public see and hear what's going on and the chips fall where they may. But to come out with this arrogant attitude of, well, we're not coming on Zeb Bell's program, that is cowardice and arrogance at its worst.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's somebody like these conservative outfits that don't want the forest touched. Maybe they're going to give the okay for power plants to come in here, using up all our water to run cool the reactors on that. There's got to be something from deep in that's causing Idaho to have Idaho Power to do this.
I am absolutely shocked at some of the individuals that I have known in Idaho Power for many, many years, some right here in this area, and they're hiding. They're hiding, and they won't even return my calls. Tony, God bless you and your wife, Mary. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Ramsey Heating and Electric. Don't forget them at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459. For all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, I urge you to get a hold of a company that's been serving you for over 6 decades. Yeah, I mean, that's a great tribute to this company. It's people, it's the family, everything. 6 decades of service to you with the best. Don't forget it's staying warm for a while, and you might need some new air filters for your air conditioner. They've got them right there at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. By the way, too, I also want to give a great big shout out and a thank you to all that they've done to help me and all they can do to help you at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. They're located at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And the number to call to make an appointment to get over your aching and paining, 678-1191. They know all the exercises, and they have the only hydrotherapy pool of its kind in this area. And I'm telling you what, they've got excellent people. That's the key right there. Excellent, knowledgeable people helping you at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, 678-1191. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I'm having a little trouble with my voice, so I'll do the best I can.
All right.
But the Idaho Power, you really struck a nerve with me and a lot of other people by stirring this up, and I really appreciate it because they need a wake-up call. But one thing that I don't understand is they talk about new green energy and everything else. They have not figured out a way to store energy, have they? I mean, you got batteries and stuff, but they only last so long.
The renewable energy programs with wind and solar, there's so many questions, there's so many ifs, there's so many costs, there's so many transitional costs. Look at what happened in Europe, look at what happened in Spain, where it just didn't work financially. It was albatross hanging around everyone's neck. And the least Idaho Power can do, and we can sum it up this way, Keith, the least Idaho Power can do is answer honest, direct questions about green energy and why they chose to go down that road, what the costs are, what the rates are going to increase, what are the hazards of going green, storage of energy, etc. You, as a consumer, deserve to have those questions answered. I'm a consumer. I deserve to have those questions answered, and I am embarrassed that they absolutely closed the door in my face.
Well, Tony brought up something that I had never even thought about. If they bring these nuclear reactors in here, it's going to take an awful lot of water to keep them cool.
Well, see, these are all questions that need to be answered, Keith. You are spot on, and Tony was spot on. People need to know. My audience is one of the biggest audiences, thanks to not only the airwaves on K-Bar, but also, in addition, on ZebBell.com, going all over the country. We have people listening literally all over the world this morning. Take Dr. History's segment, for example. I think like 35, 40 different countries tune in and listen. I am absolutely appalled that Idaho Power would put their tail between their legs like an old hound dog and run under the porch.
One of the neatest things I've seen in a long time is that coal-fired plant that's out there in Wyoming. Mm-hmm. You can see it from the freeway.
Right.
And You cannot smell it. You cannot see anything but just a little whiff of not smoke but steam.
Why are we so hell bent on getting rid of energy sources that work, getting rid of energy sources that are plentiful, getting rid of energy sources that are efficient and cost efficient? You tell me. Answer that question.
Well, I don't know, but let's take that new tractor you have away from you, and you shovel that manure by hand. That's what they're trying to tell us.
Yeah, well, I think that's a fairly good analogy, and I just absolutely have lost respect for a company that will not address the issues in a professional manner. I mean, I asked professionally to have them on the air, and they slammed the door right in my face. Some of my other associates that I asked to help follow up, they also said no. So there's an act of cowardice and arrogance, and I don't like that attitude from a company that's supposed to serve the public.
That's right, and the thing that really burns me up is the fact that they can tell you no, and they don't have to have any reason for anything, because you have to have that.
Yeah, you know, that's a very good point, Keith. They have this belligerent attitude like, listen, little one, you need our product. We do not need you. We do not need your questions. Go sit in the corner until we ask you to come forward to the class. You know, that's the attitude that they're purveying, and I think it's going to come back to bite them.
Why don't they have PR people that will listen to the public and have meetings and things like that to find out what the people really want from them?
Yeah, you know, that's a very good point. And not everybody agrees with their thinking on green energy, which leads me to ask them to come on the program. But again, cowardice or arrogance, I'm not sure which one it is, they said no. Keith, God bless you, and Nancy, have a great day. And thank you always for your calls. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're sure welcome.
All right, sir. Don't forget Ark Animal Hospital and Dr. Bill and the whole crew over there, and they really, honestly care about your pets, your animals, everything. I know Dr. Bill wanted to keep Ruby the other day. For some reason, little Ruby is his favorite, I'll tell you. And I urge you to stop over at 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn. Oh, my goodness sakes. They can make sure your animals stay healthy, and if they do have a problem, they will help. Absolutely. Large animals, small animals, all animals, contact the best. Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street in Heyburn. Number to call, 678-1177. They do have the warm hearts for the cold noses. Understand that one of our lunch bunchers is having a birthday today, and that's Don Lee. Don, by golly, happy birthday to you, and many, many more. Well, I have just a minute before we talk more about Idaho Power and how they hide under the desk. I want to remind you about the 71st Annual Minidoka County Fair and the theme Making Tracks to the Minidoka County Fair, July 29th through August 3rd. Oh my. They're going to have a lot of fun. They always do. And nice people over there on that board. I'm telling you, always with a smile on their face. Monday the 29th, they start with the world-famous lawnmower races, and then every day after that, they've got like gymkhanas and music and lots of food, and then lots of food, and then lots of food. They like to eat over there. Junior rodeos, and then on Friday and Saturday night, the 2nd and 3rd, the Wild West Open Rodeo. All of this at your 71st Annual Minidoka County Fair. Get over there and enjoy. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, not coming on this program, or for that matter any other program of their picking and choosing, tells me that Idaho Power are very concerned about not giving too much information to the general public about going green until after the fact, and then it's too late. I told you yesterday about many, many of the questions I have about their proposed 100% total green by 2045. I have a lot of them, plus another complete list that I didn't have time for on the air yesterday. But by not providing the information, I mean, really, think of any other business, and you call and you ask questions and they go, I'm sorry, we can't talk to you, goodbye. Would you do business with that business? I don't think so. When a business shows arrogance and a non-caring attitude towards their customers, of which I am one, that is one that should not be tolerated. All questions should be answered in a respectful giving and taking of that question. Idaho Power has chosen to be arrogant and in no uncertain terms throw me under the bus. I get callers on this program that you will not hear anywhere else in the United States unless you tune into national news programs. I'm very proud of that. I have developed a stable of people that no other talk show host in this state or Northwest region has access to, their own personal numbers to get them coming on this program. I've worked hard to get that. Be they in politics or whether they're in some other occupation or whether they're actors in Hollywood or whatever the case might be. I have a book on my desk that's probably almost 200 pages, solid, of names, what they represent, and phone numbers. I can go to that list anytime and ask them to come on this program. Idaho Power is supposedly our neighbor here in the state of Idaho. And they have refused an invitation to answer questions from their neighbors. That's cowardly. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to remind you about our friends over at Rain for Rent. Hello, Jake. Hello, crew. How you doing over there? Caller, I'll be right with you. Rain for Rent is located at 134 South, 600 West of Paul. And the number, keep that phone ringing because they're there to serve you, and serve they do, with the best of dedicated and sales and service staff. And they've got all the Reinke Diamond equipment. They've got everything for your irrigation success this season. Please call them today, 438-5065. That number again, 438-5065. Rain for Rent in Paul, the best. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Another thing about Idaho Power. I was told by Senator Cameron at that time that Idaho can't even begin to supply all electricity that's needed in Idaho. Now, that's really scary right there. But when I think about Zeb Bell going out there and starting up his little lawnmower tractor and starts mowing the lawn, if that was electric, where are we going to get all this electricity from?
You know, and Keith, right there, and caller number 2, stand by, but that right there is a very good question. With the pushing of electric cars, okay, first of all, the grid, the electrical grids, they're almost at a max level, if not at a max level. And when people keep saying, well, we're going to have more electricity, we've got to push more cars, we've got to get rid of fossil fuels, your question, very simply and succinctly put, is where are they going to get the electricity from?
You know, and natural gas is clean. I don't care what they say. It's a good product.
Yep.
And coal, the way they've got it cleaned up now, that is a wonderful thing, too. There's nothing wrong with having clean air to breathe, but we got that now. Why are we trying to go back to being cavemen?
Well, and that may very well happen. Keith, God bless you again. I appreciate you brought up another good point. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
You bet.
All right, sir. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you.
Good morning. I was born in Wendell, Idaho, and lived there until I was 14. And my dad was at war with Idaho Power most of the time because we had a dairy, and we had to rely on electricity to make it a profitable dairy. And every time my dad had a beef or he had questions, they treated him like you're just a dairy cow, man. You don't understand all of these things. And 3 or 4 of the people from Idaho Power went to our church. And my dad, he finally got tired of going to church and having to talk to them all the time because they were always after him because he wanted things a little bit different. And I don't even really know all of the things that were going on, but I do know that my dad got a farm homestead on the Minidoka plan over there, and he had us packed up for our farm before our house was ready.
Mm-hmm. You know, the point I want to make with this issue, and I hope you agree with me on this, if not, tell me. The point I'm trying to make is I don't agree with green energy concepts taking over very good, reliable energy concepts. And I think that a lot of people are on my side of the Alamo, if you will, and want to ask questions and get answers. And isn't it, I'm asking you, isn't it absolutely one or the other, cowardice or arrogance not to answer those questions?
I think it's arrogance because now, after all of these many years that I've lived up here in the Minnecaja area, and I see how wonderful things work out up here, I think that it's just the people who work for those companies really are not doing their job.
I can't say whether they're doing, quote unquote, their job or not, but I will say this, that when I respectfully last week asked for them to come on my program, and then all of a sudden, after the third phone call, they had a young man that I think he kind of put his shotgun mouth ahead of his BB gun brain, and he came out and he said, "Oh, no, you're too political." Would you please tell me, Chris, what's wrong with being political when we're discussing political stories and happenings?
Actually, political is mighty precious for us. And if we consider ourselves good Americans, political things should be up towards the top of what we're interested in, because those are the people that are making the decisions for our future.
Well, all I'm going to say is that I know they're a huge corporate conglomerate, but they are a public utilities company. I'm not going to weaken. I'm not going to back off. I'm not going to bow at their altar. I'm just going to say that with all the different guests that I put on the air that are much more important in some respects than Idaho Power representatives, it amazes me that a company that's supposed to be serving the Northwest and especially the Idaho consumer, that they won't answer legitimate, respectfully submitted questions on the air, and they will run behind their door, lock it, and say no.
Well, then they're going to continue to have all of these rumors, because if they don't answer their phone and talk to their people who are paying their bills, it sounds to me like they're trying to hide something.
Amen. And by the way, I thank you for that story about your father and everything. Thank you very, very much. Got to run, but call again, please. All right. Thank you. Don't forget our friends at Greystone Crossing. Matt and Kelly Wiggins, they set out to build Greystone Crossing. They wanted it to be just a big home where the residents would feel part of a family unit, and they hit that ball out of the park. Absolutely. A 12-bedroom home, Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living on Alfresco Road. That's 21st Street, just a mile east of Walmart. And 3 meals a day, plus snacks, plus housekeeping and local local transportation. Oh, sitting around visiting with old friends and new friends. It's a community right there at Greystone Crossing. Independent senior living on Alfresco Road. Call and make a little tour of the place. Call them 650-4979. Greystone Crossing. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, over my many years of putting this program on, well over 20, I can only think of one other instance, and this was an individual. One other instance where a group or a company or an individual ever said, no, I'm not coming on your program to answer questions. Idaho Power, I just think that their thinking was severely flawed, and they should have looked at their whole card and said, you know what, Zeb may not agree with our green energy program, but if we come on his program and answer the questions directly and answer them fairly and honestly, we might have quite a few converts to our way of thinking. But no. The slamming of the door and saying not only no, but you know what? No. To coming on this program is again, and I want to reiterate, an act of either cowardice or arrogance on behalf of Idaho Power. And I'm not going to let the issue pass. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget our friends at Berry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts. And 3 locations to serve you, 3 really good locations to serve you. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location. And I'll tell you what, if you need to lift, dig, push, and carry, and you need a lot of grading and leveling and laying sod, they've got all the equipment. Yep, they got all the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators and all the Bobcats and all the shapes and sizes. They've got excellent financing programs if you're buying, or lease programs. My goodness, what are you waiting for? And if you don't know how to run the equipment, they got a sandbox out behind, and they'll teach you. Berry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts. Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Get a hold today of Berry Equipment and Rental. Your turn, callers. Don't weaken on me. I've got the best audience in the country, and I appreciate you. I want to hear more about what your thoughts are. And calls are welcome at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning. Good timing. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Zeb, am I coming through good?
My goodness, just like a voice out of a cave. There you go.
Well, I got a new phone. Is it any better than the old one?
I would say that anything over the 2 paper cups and a string that you had is excellent.
Well, I lost my other phone when I was frantically searching down by the river. And so it's been a terrible last week. Was just absolutely the worst.
And again, I want to jump in there and say that again, Randy, our sympathies to you for the absolute heartache that you've suffered, and your friendship on this program has always meant a lot to us.
Well, let's face it. Minicasia has been good to me. The people here are good people. People are thoughtful, caring, considerate, and I'm fortunate to be doing business with him. She was 18 years old, and she just graduated, and my daughter is just, destroyed.
Yeah.
And so you go on, and you go forth. So I really didn't, want to get into that too much. This is the thing about Valmy and Bridger. They Valmy, Bridger's right over there where the coal mine is. So is the natural gas. Because I was over here at one of the local natural gas suppliers here, retailer, and he had Wyoming plates, and I said, "Where'd you get that liquefied natural gas. He says, it comes right out of the ground over there in Wyoming. And I says, is it over? It's all over in the state of Wyoming, coal, especially natural gas. And I said to myself, well, if you're going to quit using coal for Jim Bridger, are you going to kick it over into natural gas? Oh, no. You know, the person I spoke to about the... Go ahead.
Oh, no, I didn't say anything or do anything.
Okay, go ahead. But they said, no, we're not going to do that. And I says, what about all the people losing their jobs? What about shutting down a perfectly good power plant that's been updated? You know, these things just don't sit around and get bad and go to heck.
That's right.
They have to update and clean and fix and maintain all these things are in perfect working order.
That's right.
And I don't know what it costs to switch them over to natural gas, but the natural gas is coming out of the ground over there by Bridger.
You know, Randy, when you look at the overall concept of coming out with press releases that say Idaho Power is going to go 100% green by 2045, you, especially you, in all your kind of detective ways of looking into various things and asking questions, I'll bet you when you heard that, you came up with a multiplicity of questions that would say, okay, what about the loss of jobs? Okay, what about transitional fees to go to green energy? What about the loss of money for this, that, and the other? How are we going to afford that? How is it going to affect the rates? Everything else. People deserve to have these questions answered by somebody that's reputable from Idaho Power and can give straight answers. But to sit back in a chair, put your feet up on the desk and say, after the invitation to be on my program, nope, that's cowardice and arrogance.
Well, I don't think it's something they can get away with. And so the pressure has to heat up. And, if you want to call Idaho Power, you just get on your phone and, everybody's got one, I think. And you Google or Siri and you say, call Idaho Power, Boise. I want the main office, Idaho Power, Boise. You'll get the number. And then they'll want to, and then you can talk to whoever. And so, but what we need to do is get a representative on the program explaining, how they feel about closing down Balmy and
Absolutely.
And Bridger and
Absolutely.
And perfectly good functioning. And these people that live there are going to lose their jobs.
Well, that was the main premise of, and I should back up a little bit, our conversation that took place over a month ago. That was the main premise of getting Idaho Power on this program, was to talk about the closing of Valmy and Fort Bridger and ask questions why and where they were headed, etc. But you can't get something out of something if that something won't provide anything, and that's what Idaho Power is not doing. They're not providing any information, and their lips are sealed.
Well, in the past, I've been told to go to the website. Well, I think we need to be able to have interaction with these folks, not just having them tell us the way it is, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, and here's something else, too, Randy. Randy, here's something else, too. If they're going to pick and choose who or whom they're going to speak to, maybe some liberalized program that's going to throw softball questions and then sit there and pat them on the head like a good dog, that's one thing. Maybe they're going to pick and choose. But to defy and say, no, we're not coming on Zeb's program, that to me is, that's more than discrimination. They are picking and choosing so that they won't get an embarrassing situation.
Absolutely. And see, once it's done, it's done. Once it's closed and shuttered, and all of the money that has been spent by Idaho Power and whoever else to keep those plants updated, I mean, they wouldn't be running with coal if they weren't clean.
Yeah.
They have been updated. Those are absolute mandates. You just don't run. It doesn't just get into disrepair and then finally you shut it. These things are shiny and new and updated and running perfectly and there's absolutely no reason to shut them down.
I agree. Randy, I've got to do the weather, and then I've got another call. But again, God bless you, and thank you for your call. Thank you so much. Caller, I'm going to ask you a quick question. Can you stay there on the line 60 seconds? I've got to do the weather. Would you do that for me?
Yes.
All right, I'll be right with you. Thank you very much. Don't forget, our weather brought to you this hour by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and they are right behind the Minidoka Hospital across from the emergency room, and they would love to help you with your hearing health. Have you noticed a little bit lessening of your hearing ability? Well, don't let it go any longer. Call today for a hearing screening. I did. They helped me. They can help you. 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Red flag warning is in effect for today through this evening. Here's look at your weather forecast, and we are in a red flag warning due to the possibility of thunderstorms, possible lightning strikes as we make our way towards the afternoon. We are expecting partly sunny skies, and it's going to be on the warm side, high of 93. We are expecting an overnight low of 63. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, cooling off to about 88, mostly clear for tomorrow night with a low of 55. And then for the rest of the week, looks like sunny skies. Slight chance of afternoon thunderstorms are a possibility as we make our way towards the weekend, expecting highs in the 90s. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Range.
Oh, three great doctors of audiology, Christine Pickup, Courtney Mitchell, and Shane Hunsaker, serving you at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Number to call, 312-0957. Caller, you've been very patient. Thank you. Go ahead. You're on the air.
A couple of things arise from what I've been hearing and reading. I did read the other day that there are some nuclear power plants, small nuclear power plants planned in the future for Idaho, but they're going in over around the Arco area, west of Twin Falls. But, you know, with nuclear power, I think people look at it as clean energy, but what do you do with the waste? Because you have to treat it very, very carefully and bury it in very special places and in very special ways and so forth. And when they have had nuclear power plant accidents, they have been nasty.
You know, Linda, right there,
are endangered.
Right there with what you said, it solidifies my point that I've been making all morning long. That you had your question. Other people have called in this morning with questions. Why not have Idaho Power come on the program and open the forum up to where you and others could get answers to those questions?
Right. The other thing it reminds me of is, well, what benefit is it to them? Because I'm sure it should be a benefit to them for them to be trying to go green. And otherwise, also, it reminds me of what happened with Obamacare. You have to pass it in order to read it.
Oh, you are such a sharp lady. God bless you and some of the points you make. And that's exactly what I said earlier, that by not being able to ask questions at the conclusion of what they're trying to do, it's too late. Boy, you hit the nail on the head and drove it right through the board.
Oh, bless you, Seb, for what you're doing. I appreciate you.
God bless you, Linda. Thank you for your call, as always. Thank you. How that lady is sharp, and she can sing. Oh, the talent that she has got. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I've got another story I want to get into, but I'm just going to say this. Well, we'll take this call first. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, Zeb. This is something I did want to bring up earlier about Idaho Power. We have a place called in Rupert when we live there, Cancer Ridge. I think you're familiar with that. If Idaho Power is going to be involved putting in nuclear plants, how is this going to affect possible health situations in Idaho here?
Okay, now I will not answer that because I can't answer that. I don't think anybody can answer that, with the exception of very professional people that have worked in that field, understand the dangers and the hazards. I'm not passing the buck. But, Tony, like I've told you and the audience many, many times, if I don't know something to the nth degree, I'm certainly not going to put an opinion out on it. I don't know that much about it, but these people are supposed to have the answers, and that's all the more reason they should come on the program and answer your questions.
Yeah, that's right, because right after we left Rupert, Mary came up with breast cancer, and this is kind of what brings my curiosity to the surface.
No, I just think it's absolutely ridiculous, childish, and very amateurish that Idaho Power would not come on the program and answer questions. Like I said, they may answer the questions to a lot of people's satisfaction, to the point where they get new converts to believe in what they're doing is right. But they have to be asked those questions, and it's very cowardly to avoid a program.
Well, keep hammering away there. They'll break down sooner or later.
We'll see, Tony. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you.
You're welcome, Dick. Bye.
I saw something on the news this morning that I don't know how these policemen kept their cool. I don't know why these policemen kept their cool. There were some videos shot on smartphones showing a police arrest on the streets in Brooklyn, I believe it was. And an officer was handcuffing a person that had committed a crime, and the rest of the residents from that area attacked the policeman with buckets of water, and when the buckets were empty, they threw the buckets at the policeman, hitting him in the head. There was another video that was shot of policemen on the beat in New York City, and all of a sudden, various residents ran out of their homes or out of their apartment complexes and doused them with water and threw things at them, and the police... how they remained this tough and this stoic is absolutely beyond me. They walked away because of Mayor Bill de Blasio, stupid mayor of New York City, with a stand-down order, basically making the police targets of all these creeps and weirdos that are trying to just absolutely minimize the police. One policeman was walking to the car, and running up behind him was an individual with a great big container of water, and less than a foot away just doused that policeman. Now that's assault. That's assault. And possibly, very possibly, the best way to have stopped that assault would be a billy club put to a certain area. I just don't understand how and why we're putting our men in blue in situations to where they have to cower in fear and they can't retaliate to protect even themselves. What kind of a country are we turning into with so-called leadership like de Blasio that would threaten the police and say, leave these people alone? You're just opening the door for a complete chaotic situation. This is absolutely ridiculous. Calls welcome. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget our friends and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and oh boy, have they got all the tires for you. You're going to be taking a trip before the kids go back to school? That's hard to think about, isn't it, already? Yep, you're going to take a trip. Well, you better make sure you got the best of tires, and they've got all the tires, all the tread designs, all the sizes for your car, pickup, SUV, whatever. And they want you to leave here, go on that trip, and come back safely. Absolutely. So So stop in and check out all the great tire buys at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And don't forget, too, they got the best in brake service, front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this, and the best in service. With Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Thank you for all your calls. And by the way, too, a lot of the people that didn't call on the program called me after the program yesterday. Thank you for all your support. That means a lot to me and my wife, Deanne. Thank you very much. Coming up next hour, as I mentioned earlier, we've got Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance, and we also have Dr. Michael Busler, noted economist, and then Dr. History and David Rubin. We've got all kinds of great people coming in on the program for the rest of the day. Don't forget Lunch Bunch this Thursday at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Oh, we are going to have a good time at Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Call your friends, neighbors, everybody, load them in the van, bring them down. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley on Thursday at 11:30. Wheels, we're going to kick the ball over in your court. Take it away for 7 minutes. Oh, good morning, good morning, good morning. Zeb at the Ranch on a Tuesday, July 23rd. And thanks to our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, serving you with the best of tires for your safe driving. Also, don't forget some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, Wheels, could we have the good word for Western Waste?
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Oh, my goodness sakes, they do a wonderful job serving you. I mean, if you're going to have a family reunion or a company party or picnic, somebody forgot to rent the porta potties. Well, call right now, 734-6969, Western Waste Services. They have all the porta potties. They'll get them all set up, and you're covered. Don't forget, they are always at your disposal. 734-6969, Western Waste Services. Want to remind you that there's a great big tent event going on. Ooh, yeah, great big giant indoor tent event going on right now, up to 50% off. Wow, what am I talking about? I'm talking about Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland and Burley. Dishwashers starting at just $329, ranges starting at just $399, air conditioners starting at $169. Woo, my best deals under the tent. You better check it out, up to 12 months, same as cash on approved credit at Redder's Showcase, great big tent event going on right now at 2611 Overland in Burley. We're going to have our guest on the air with us momentarily. I want to also come in here quickly and say absolutely our friends at Hanson Mortuary, helping you and your family in a time of need when there's the passing of a loved one. They are there. Joel Heward, manager, his family, and his staff, always there to serve you with absolutely the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. I urge you to write the number down and call for information on pre-planning of funerals. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. That number, 436-5636. I'll repeat it, 436-5636. And don't forget, too, Joel Heward serving you also at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. You know, a couple of weeks ago, a good friend of mine, Matt Martini, back in D.C., and I were talking. And I said, man, I would love to get kind of a weekly energy update as to what's going on with our energy in this country and the green movement and how it's going to possibly disrupt everything and throw it in the trash. And Matt brought up to me, of course, a friend of mine that's been on this program for a long, long time over the years, and that's Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance. There is no one that I trust more about what they say about energy than this man. Dan, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm good and hope you are.
I am, but I'm right now a little bit under siege, and we're going to kind of kick off this segment a little bit about what the problems are. Dan, I asked last week Idaho Power to come on my program and discuss and answer questions in regards to why they are going to try to go completely 100% green in about 20 years. And they came back to me with this. They said, no, we won't come on your program. You're too political. And they slammed the door, per se, in my face.
Well, that's not very neighborly, is it?
Well, I wanted to ask questions about green energy. I wanted to ask questions about the cost. I wanted to ask questions about transitional costs. I wanted to ask why the coal-fired plants that we have serving this area, why they're not, even though they're extremely efficient, why they want to replace those. What's going to happen to the ratepayers? How are the rates going to change? The structure going to change? These are questions that when people start throwing green energy at you, Dan, people deserve to have the answers.
Yeah, you're right, Zeb. I mean, that's one of the biggest problems we have is transparency in this stuff. And if the corporations that are involved in a monopoly situation providing power are not pressed to actually address and answer correctly or accurately or honestly the questions of the people who pay their salaries, then honestly they're cruising for a bruising. That's just no way to run a business. If they have a public trust because they're granted certain authorities that other people aren't, because of them being a public service entity. So, but in honesty, I mean, politicians have to weigh in on this. They control these guys. They're the ones who allow them to get away with this stuff and oversee the Public Service Commission or Public Utility Commission, whatever it is in Idaho. But they need to answer those questions because these are serious questions. It'll affect everybody's life, their businesses, the future and opportunity for their kids, and the rest of it, and simply stiff-arming legitimate questions about what's going on is doesn't cut it.
Well, let me ask you this, and I want to get into this because many times on this program, and Wheels, you're going to have to ride the gain and turn Mr. Kish up in my headsets when he's speaking, but we do have a little feedback. Thanks, buddy. The reliability of green energy. I mean, those are simple words right there. Reliable mixed with green energy. We have seen the unreliability. We've seen great big cost factors of increase. Talk to me a little bit about that. The reliability on green energy to support energy grids for the future. I don't see it being reliable at all. Am I wrong?
Well, you're right. I mean, the fact of the matter is, even the Energy Information Administration, which is part of DOE and is a nonpartisan, non-political, and they really are, evaluator, and they've got great information on their website. Even the EIA separates coal, nuclear, natural gas, and I believe it's hydro, from non-dispatchable, as they call it, or non-reliable, that's really what it translates into, sources when they try to evaluate what the costs of replacement energy are. And that's because
it's built into the system. Everybody knows that the fact is the wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't shine, and the question is how much. And depending on where you are and a number of other things, they estimate that somewhere between 30 and 40% of the time. Whereas a coal, a nuclear, a gas plant, hydro is built to hydro, although it's renewable in the sense that water renews itself, is subject to some ebb and flows depending on controlling the water and the like. But in essence, every day, wind and solar do things differently than they did the day before. Well, you can't run a plant on that. You can't run a heart monitor on electricity that's only there 30 to 40% of the time. And likewise, you can't run livestock operations. You can't run a factory. You can't run, so something else has to make up for it. And that brings additional costs into the system that these other sources don't have. And those are the parts that they don't add up when they're telling you about how this stuff costs less or how it's the green future or whatever point that they're trying to make. But there's a reason for all this. There's a reason Idaho Power doesn't necessarily want to answer your questions, and that's because if they build new stuff, they get to charge you more than the stuff that's already built and paid for. Just like if you got a pickup truck that's all paid for, you may have to put some brakes on it occasionally or get a tune-up or something like that and replace the tires, but it beats the heck out of having to go out and take out payments on a brand new vehicle and pay for that. Well, they actually make money when they buy a new vehicle because they're in essence opening the bank so that they can make their 10 or 11% return on investment that they're guaranteed for new stuff that they can't get for stuff that's already paid for. So you see how that works, Zeb?
Well, I do, and isn't that the same premise or the same storyline as to what happened over in Spain with the increased costs and everything else, and that's why green energy went defunct over there?
Yeah, same thing in Germany. Same thing in Germany, where they make where the cost of electricity is 3 times. They went all renewable. They're trying to go all renewable. It's a joke. They actually burn more coal as a percentage of their overall electricity generation than we do. But they've tried to go in this direction. They've tried to prop up and subsidize and incentivize and mandate the purchase of wind and solar. And the consequence has been that German residential consumers pay 3 times as much as we do. Well, if you like that system, it may be good for some of the power companies, but it sure isn't good for the consumers.
No. And here's I guess I'll revert back to an old adage here, and I want you to respond to this. If it ain't broke, why fix it? In other words, if we have an efficient program right now working, why do we want to pay to eliminate it and have transitional fees and everything else at the ratepayer's expense?
Well, that's the whole point, because what also happens is the system begins to break down. The grid begins to break down. It's not built to have these systems. Think about it, Zeb. If you're driving down the highway and your vehicle's going 60 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour, you're putting out less pollution. Your engine's running much more efficiently at a constant speed. And compare that with stop-and-go driving. That's why when they estimate your mileage with a vehicle, they give you the highway miles and the city miles.
Right.
Well, those city miles are a lot less than the highway miles, even though you're not going as fast. Well, that's what's happening to the entire system when you throw these ridiculous forms of energy. And I don't mean to call them ridiculous. I mean, at times and at places they make sense. But just be aware, and people should be aware, that you're paying for them. This is a luxury that maybe they think we can all afford, but a lot of people can't.
Well,
they don't seem to care about the people that can't, Zeb.
That's exactly where I'm headed. And here right now today, Dan, we're looking at, I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, absolutely more demands from all sectors of our society for electricity. And with the pushing and the scurrying of the auto industry trying to be politically correct and push for electric cars, that's going to be an added burden. We are looking at more electricity, but by going green, that key word comes back. What about reliability? I don't think it's there.
Well, yeah, I mean, they'll come up with, listen, you'll get them, they're all sitting there in their suits talking about how, well, we'll use backup storage and we'll do batteries and we'll do this and we'll do that. All those things are very expensive. It's like the government telling you, you must buy a car. You must buy a car, this particular model, and when you buy it, it only runs 30% of the time. Well, you know, you can't drive only 30% of the time. You've got life to take care of. And so as a consequence of that, you have to pay for something else on top of the fact that they're making you buy the other stuff. And that's what's kind of absurd about it. Now, it may be good for the people to make the cars because they get to sell them, but after everybody's so poor they can't afford to buy the first car, they're out of business. So it's a really stupid business model, to be honest with you, to wish upon your own nation more expensive energy so that people can afford it less, so that the economy and our nation's power goes down, and they lose all their customers.
Dan, you've hit it right on the head. We've got a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, quickly. I've only got 6 minutes left. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, talking about batteries and storage, unless they've made a battery that doesn't have as much hazardous material in it, I haven't heard about it. From what I understand, the batteries for them electric cars and for everything else, they have all sorts of corrosive materials in it, and lead and heavy metals and such. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll listen.
And that's something I'm glad he brought up, Dan, is what about the getting rid of, if you will, all the electrical appliances and accessories, the batteries, etc.? Are we opening up a Pandora's box of what in the heck are we going to do with all this garbage?
Yes, as a matter of fact. I mean, your caller points out correctly, although the batteries don't have a lot of lead in them, the new ones, lithium ion and that sort of thing. What they do have is cobalt. They have cadmium, which is a heavy metal, and, you know, if all these things are safe if treated properly, but who knows whether they're going to be treated properly or not, and then the question is cost as well. So for a lot of these things, all these solar panels, they have a limited life. We have millions and millions and millions upon millions of Chinese solar panels in this country. Nobody knows whether they're leaking into the soil. Nobody knows their exact life expectancy, but at some point they have to be replaced, which is great for the utility because they can go out there and then start charging you that 10 or 11% on top of the cost of everything to replace it. Again, they get paid to build new stuff. That's how they make their money.
We have another call with a question, Dan. You're hitting a home run this morning, Dan. Appreciate it. Caller, quickly. You're on the air. Thank you.
Well, when I spoke to representatives from our local power source, they said to me that the on a windmill we subsidize at $55 a kilowatt hour. It's subsidized. It couldn't even pay for itself. But he says that it's getting closer to being self-sufficient. Not that it's going to be able to do its job. And I asked him if they have brakes on them. You know, because they in a brisk wind, in a high wind, I see some of them stop, and then on a dead day, I see some of them spinning. And I say, what is that to do? To fool us? And they won't answer the question. I'll hang up.
You know, the caller brings up an excellent point, Dan. There again, Idaho Power was welcomed on this program respectfully to answer that type of question, and they absolutely hid behind their desk in cowardice. And I think people need to know about these wind turbines. Go ahead, please. Answer the caller if you would.
Yeah, I mean, your caller raises a good point. These are subsidized. They get paid by taxpayers, federal taxpayers, not with a tax deduction the way most of us are familiar. It's a tax credit, so that for every kilowatt hour of electricity that they make, they get paid about the wholesale cost of coal generation. That's on top of what they get for selling it to the utility that in many cases is mandated. In Idaho, I mean, in honesty, you guys are in pretty good shape because you've always had a lot of hydropower, and you're blessed to have that. So your costs tend to be lower than in other parts of the country. So, but you hate to see them ruin a good thing by throwing in a bunch of unnecessary things and doing away with perfectly good things that could be picking up the load for the rest of it. And that's the issue. You don't want to be... Does Idaho want to become California? Do they want to become New York State? Then their politicians just keep doing what they're doing and letting these folks with the power companies, run roughshod over the folks of Idaho. It's that simple.
Yeah, and you touched on this point earlier in our conversation. By not answering questions, and I asked them to come on the program, and they slammed the door in my face and said no. But this is the thing I'm worried about, and I want you to elaborate on it, is that by not giving any answers to questions or providing information, well, after the fact, it's too late, and when the ratepayer picks up that bill, there's no way to transitionalize those costs or to arbitrate. Once they get their way, they're going to run roughshod, and you have no recourse because none of your questions were asked and none of your questions were answered.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. I mean, once they make these investments and once they're guaranteed a return on those investments and once they've goofed up the grid, and then tell you that you have to spend a lot more to fix it because they goofed it up in the first place when there was nothing wrong with it, then you've got to pay. And that's what happens in so many cases. And that's why I say, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know who the local politicians are at the state level, but I'd be all over their doorstep asking them to ask these questions of Idaho Power and really get answers. Don't let them weasel out of it. Don't let the typical, political weasel words rue the day. This needs to be looked at. Those Idaho Power will listen to the politicians. They have to.
Absolutely. I've only got 2 minutes left. Caller, real fast. Go. You're on the air.
Well, de Blasio was complaining about Con Edison or whatever they are in New York State, and the people of New York who elect insane people, that supplier has been forced into things that don't work, and now the evidence is clear. The people of New York City lost their power in the heat. So I'll hang up.
Respond quickly, Dan, if you would.
Yep, he's absolutely right. That's exactly right. The editorial in the Wall Street Journal today, which folks can get online, it's free, the editorials, talks about how Governor Cuomo is running around. The politicians are now blaming the power company when they're the ones that told the power company to do this stuff. And same thing's happening in California. You see the same deal. They just banned natural gas in Berkeley. I guess natural gas is too dirty for them. I mean, these people are nuts, Zeb. They're nuts.
Dan.
And folks need to stand up and say no more of this stuff or answer our questions.
There you go. That's the bottom line. Answer our questions. And that's where the cowardice and the arrogance of Idaho Power came in. They will not answer our questions. Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance, a true friend of this program. I will talk to you next Tuesday, and I mean this when I say this. Thank you and God bless. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zeb. God bless you and your audience.
I appreciate it. There you heard it from a man that's been in the energy business for a long, long time and heralded as one of the most respected. Dan Kish, back on the East Coast with the American Energy Alliance, telling you like it is. I hope that we're having some ears burn a little bit at Idaho Power. I hope that they are reconsidering their foolish and very foolhardy response to me, no, not coming on this program, because you, the public, deserve to hear the answers. You deserve that. I want to remind you, too, about our friends at the Minidoka County Fair and Rodeo and some of the great people over in that area that urge you to be a part of their great fair coming up this next week. Don't forget Magic Valley Carpet at 613 D Street in Rupert. All your flooring needs, I mean all your flooring needs, all your carpet, all your hardwood, vinyl, laminates, everything. And these folks have been in business for over 35 years. They are excellent at Magic Valley Carpet, 613 D Street in Rupert. And let's not forget Scows at 323 East 8th Street in Rupert. Wow. Only locally owned and operated auto parts store in the Minicash area. Every time I've been in there, I just sit back and go, whoo, look out, here they come. The door opening, the door closing, the door opening and closing. I mean, they've got a customer base. They know that they are the best. And they've been serving the Minicash area for over 70 years. And every customer, their motto is, every detail matters. They take care of you at Scows, 323 East 8th Street in Rupert. Let's see, what else have we got cooking here? Oh, yeah, I got to get over either today or tomorrow to Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Excuse me for coughing in your ear. It's allergy time. And I want to remind you about all the good things that are going on at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More for the summer. This is a perfect time to beautify and comfortize your home for the fall and winter. You got to get ready for the football games. You got to get ready for all the in-house parties and everything and the family gatherings. Now's the time to talk about carpet. Now's the time to talk about, everything you've got in your house, like new furniture with the recliners and all the dining room sets, everything. I mean, Jeff and the folks over there, they absolutely can help you. They've got the largest display of recliners. You get in and try one on. You're going to love the people at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today. One other quick note before we go to our next guest, and I don't mean to keep him waiting, but I do appreciate it. We want to remind everybody, too, about Let's Ride. Get your motor running. Vroom, vroom, crank it up, head for the hills on a four-wheeler or a side-by-side. Get out of the maddening crowd and get up and get some fresh air in the beautiful Idaho outdoors. Along with that, they've got all the watercrafts to hit the rivers and the lakes and the streams. Oh my, they've got it all in that showroom at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24, between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 4. Don't forget, and also they've got a super service department to keep you running. Absolutely the best at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24, between Rupert and the World, where the fun is sold. This next man that's on my program, I can't say enough about him and his personality and his knowledge. I just absolutely love listening to him. I wished he could have been my economics professor in college, and he just makes it so easy to understand. And I say good morning to Dr. Michael Busler. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Zeb. It's always my pleasure to be here, and thank you for the kind words.
Well, they're not just kind words, they're heartfelt words, because you really lay it out there and people can understand what's going on or not going on or what should go on. Yeah. And Doctor, do you mind if I call you Mike? Because I hate all these titles. Do you mind if I call you just Mike?
Not at all. In fact, I prefer it.
All right. Mike, with your knowledge and expertise, please, in 1,000 words or less, tell me about the idiocy of Rashida Tlaib, Muslim congresswoman, saying, well, the $15 a wage increase for minimum wage isn't enough. We've got to have $20 minimum wage. I about fell out of my recliner.
Yeah, I don't blame you. The $15 minimum wage is enough to cause severe problems. $20 would be completely out of the question. So why do we say that? Well, first of all, let's take a look at why Bernie Sanders and the Democrats support the minimum wage. And as you know, they just voted in the House of Representatives to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. So from their standpoint, they would say anybody that works 40 hours a week should earn a living wage, enough to support themselves. $7.25 an hour is certainly nowhere near that, enough to support themselves. $15 an hour, they'll argue you're not going to be rich, but it's enough to lift people out of poverty. We have a responsibility to lift people out of poverty, they would argue. Now, the facts are the Congressional Budget Office estimated about 1.3 million people would be lifted out of poverty by raising the minimum wage. However, we would lose between 1.3 million and 3 million jobs as a result of the increased minimum wage. So, and why is that? Well, you take a look at, say, a fast food restaurant. They have 4, 5, 6 people that are paying pretty close to the minimum wage, and these people take orders and handle cashier, the payments. Well, if they now have to pay them $15 an hour, that comes out to a little over $30,000 a year. Add on the Social Security that they have to pay and some additional benefits and things, you're up to a minimum of $35,000 a year for a person who has absolutely no skill. A minimum wage worker is somebody that, with all due respect, doesn't know how to do anything. So you're asking an employer to pay $35,000 a year for somebody that really has no skills and they have to train. What happens in the fast food industry, the owners of the restaurants say, listen, we can't afford to pay all this. It'll put us out of business. So what do? They look to reduce their costs, and they start replacing labor with capital goods. In other words, instead of 3 people in the front taking orders, you now have a touch screen in front of you, and you place the order on a touch screen instead of a person taking the order. Then when it comes time to pay, instead of handing the money or the credit card to a person, you put that through a machine too. So by raising the wages that high above a market equilibrium, you will significantly reduce the number of jobs available, and it'll end up, I think, hurting far more people than it ends up helping. There's a couple other issues with it, too. Suppose you have somebody, in the fast food restaurant, he pays the starting people $8 an hour. You have somebody who's been working there 2 or 3 years, the person makes $14 an hour. So they make $6 more than the new hired minimum wage guy. So if the new hire goes up to $15 an hour, the experienced person says, look, I'm worth $6 an hour more than him. Are you going to have to raise his wage to $21 an hour? So once all those labor costs start going up, the question is, where's that money going to come from? Well, there's only 2 choices. Either business takes it out of their profit, and of course, if you take too much out of profit and there's not enough profit to sustain the business, they go out of business, but he could take it out of profit. Or 2, he can pass it along to consumers. So consumers will be paying higher prices than they should because labor, the business owner is forced to pay labor more than the value of their output.
I don't understand why the Democrats, and I'm poking my finger at people like Tlaib and Harris and Warren and others, why they can't get their head out of the sand or elsewhere and understand the productivity of what happens in a business to the point where if you have an employee that's been there 5 years and he's going to say, wait a minute, if you're going to start somebody at $15 an hour and I'm basically making only about $18 an hour right now after all these years of service, I demand higher wages. You're looking at a snowball effect that's going to run that business right off the cliff.
That's exactly what it's going to do. But the people who support this are not concerned, and they don't even think about what it's going to do to business. They just assume that big business has a lot of money, they can afford to pay this, it won't hurt them at all. From a social standpoint, which is where they look at things, this is a good thing for from a social standpoint. You'll be paying people more money. They'll be able to live better, and that's a good thing for everybody. They would would argue. Whereas if they looked at the total big picture, they would come up with something very, very different. You know, historically, the American population, the American voting public, supports increases in the minimum wage overwhelmingly. But we've never had an increase where you're going to double the minimum wage. Once people see what that does, I mean, I don't mind if it goes up 50 cents an hour or 80 cents an hour. You know, we'll sort of work that in, and it has some social benefit. We understand that. But going from $7.25 to $15 an hour, even if they do it gradually over 4 or 5 years, which they intended to do, by doing that, it would just throw the whole system out of whack, again, tend to slow economic growth. And we should be concentrating now on economic growth. We went through a whole decade from 2006 to 2016 where we had virtually a stagnant economy. Growth averaged around 2% there, and it caused all kinds of problems. Finally, President Trump gets into office, gets rid of all these regulations that have been holding growth back, cuts taxes for everybody, the middle class to stimulate demand, the upper class and corporations to provide capital to increase supply, and the economy started growing from the second quarter of 2017, right after Trump got into office, until today. We're still growing at about now a 3% annual rate. And the Federal Reserve not been so aggressive last year. We've probably been closer to a 4% growth. So what we need now is to concentrate first on economic growth. And I tell my Democratic friends, all of these social policies that you're interested in implementing would be much easier to do if the economy was very strong and everybody was working and wages are going up and there's opportunity for people. Once that happens, then you can start to look at these social problems. You can't look at these social problems before you have a strong economy.
Mike, I'm going to ask you, I think you're on a cell phone, and if you are, can you hold that phone really still? We're having a fade-in, fade-out problem with the cell, so I apologize, but our connection's not the best this morning. Caller, quickly, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Very simply, in this country today, Zeb, we're forgetting that the company, the customer is the company, and people need to realize that. I'll leave it at that.
Very good point. The customer is the company. You know, Mike, when people are going to be seeing $14, $15 for a cheeseburger, they're certainly going to buy food at the grocery store and stay home. And it's going to be the elimination of the business that the government hurt in the first place.
That's exactly right. The customer is the most important. They're the ones that keep the economy going by buying things. And if the wages, those high wages, end up pushing prices up to the point where hamburgers are priced out of reach, that's going to hurt everybody. The consumer won't be able to buy the goods. The business won't be able to sell the goods. The economy will again start to stagnate. And that's exactly what we're trying to avoid and reverse today. This meant raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour is a terrible idea at a terrible time.
Absolutely. Let me ask you about another Democrat that all of a sudden I think this woman has just lost it. I think that her IQ has jumped into the empty swimming pool, and that is Kamala Harris, telling the public the other day that she knows a way to come up with $30 trillion for Medicare without raising taxes. Please tell me where that treasure chest is buried.
I haven't the slightest idea. I can't imagine the size of $30 trillion. Look, everything the economy produces in a year, everything we produce is only $20 trillion. So how you can find $30 trillion somewhere without raising taxes? I mean, we only, with personal taxes, we only bring in about $1.5 trillion a year in personal income taxes. So how is she possibly going to find $30 trillion? It's a statement that doesn't make any sense.
Well, we have a caller with a question. Caller, quickly, you're on the air. Thank you.
Yes, I've got a couple questions here. One of them is what happens to the business that has to replace all their menus and all their stuff to increase the cost of their product. product. And the other question is, what happens to all these seniors that are on fixed income that aren't going to see any increase in income, that's just going to cut down what they have to live on, make, where it costs way more. Their meat's going to cost more, the petroleum's going to cost more, their electricity's going to cost more. All their outgoing expenses are going to be higher. Can you explain that to me? Because I don't understand.
Thank you for your call. Michael, if you would please, respond to the caller.
Yeah, just real quick, that's why it's so important for us to keep that inflation rate low. When the inflation starts to go up, and raising these wages the way they're going to raise them will cause prices to go up, and the people that are most hurt when prices go up are people on fixed incomes. That's why government policy generally, I know that with monetary policy, their primary goal is to keep the inflation rate down. They also want to see the economy grow, too, but they want to keep that inflation rate down because it hurts everybody, particularly the senior citizens. Now, the government has tried to help a little bit by putting a cost of living adjustment in Social Security payments, so it has helped a little bit. But I agree with the caller that is the elderly and people on Social Security who will be hurt most by these increases in wages, which will result in higher prices.
Mike, doesn't it surprise you as an economics professor, doesn't it surprise you or even shock you that our senators and our congressmen could be this stupid and this naive to think that by imposing a $15 or maybe even a $20 minimum wage isn't going to actually hurt jobs, employment, and businesses? Why can't they see this?
They're more concerned with saying things that they believe will bring votes to them than they are concerned about any long-term effects. The short term for them is to get elected. Say what you have to get elected, and then once you get there, you'll work things out. That's the way politicians operate. Now, we have President Trump, who's not a politician. He doesn't understand politically correct. He comes out with some things that are definitely not politically correct, but it's the way he feels, and it's what he's doing. So he's more concerned with as a business person, which is what he is, he's concerned with solving problems rather than doing the politically correct thing. The Democrats don't look down the road. All they say is, look, I want to help everybody. I want to help this group. And compassionate Americans say, well, that seems like a good idea. We should help these people. And by putting all the people we want to help ahead of the majority of Americans, you end up with exactly what we had in the last decade, a stagnant economy with not much opportunity for people, and more of these social programs going through that really just take away income from people that have earned it and give it to people who, for whatever reason, haven't earned it. And you can't keep going like that. President Trump, fortunately, is not a politician. He's a business person. He's confronting problems.
Well, really, isn't the plan of attack for the Democrats to give free college, free Medicare, cut all the costs, etc., $30 trillion for Medicare that they're just going to find someplace? And then Elizabeth Warren comes out and says a crash in the economy is imminent. Well, you're damn right it is if the Democrats take over.
Yeah, if they implement their policies, there definitely will be a crash. Look, the economy operates in cycles. You go through recession, recovery, expansion, slow down, into recession again. So it does go through cycles. I don't know that we'll have a big crash anytime soon, or if ever again. I mean, I just don't know. But the economy will go through its ups and downs. The idea of government is supposed to smooth out some of the negative aspects of the business cycle, make sure inflation is kept low during the good times, make sure we can get unemployment back down during the bad times, and try to smooth out some of these things. And you're right. If they implement the policies that they're talking about, we would have a tremendous crash in the economy, and that doesn't benefit anybody.
Dr. Michael Bussler, and tell you what, he's a professor of finance at Stockton University and one of my very favorite people to have on the air. God bless you, sir, and thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Zeb. It's always my pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Boy, I tell you what, this raising more of the minimum wage to $15 an hour, what are the qualifications? Think about that. You got some teenage kid that can't even comb his hair and brush his teeth and look halfway civilized, comes in and applies for a job, you hire him, no qualifications, no former work ethic or pattern whatsoever, and you're going to hand him $15 an hour. $15 an hour, which basically, and if they want to raise it to $20 an hour, you're talking about this little greasy-eyed kid coming in and making over $38,000 a year flipping burgers with no qualifications. It doesn't know Khmer from Sikkim, and then you got to raise everybody else's wages because they've been there longer with more experience. The whole thing is retroactive to make that business fail. To make that business fail. And this is the idiocy and incompetency of politicians that really have never written out a paycheck to someone working for them or run a business. They don't know. Time for our weather. We do know that. And the weather brought to you this hour by some folks that I absolutely have the most respect for. And that, of course, is Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. They've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. They know, and they keep trying harder every day to help you, your family, and your business with the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, bookkeeping services, financial statement preparation, retirement planning, all of this and so much more. And they have offices in Burley and Rupert to serve you. Serve, the key word. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Don't forget, you get a hold of them today. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Red flag warning is in effect for today through this evening. Here's look at your weather forecast, and we are in a red flag warning due to the possibility of thunderstorms, possible lightning strikes as we make our way towards the afternoon. We are expecting partly sunny skies, and it's going to be on the warm side, high of 93. We are expecting an overnight low of 63. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, cooling off to about 88, mostly clear for tomorrow night with a low of 55. And then for the rest of the week, looks like sunny skies. Slight chance of afternoon thunderstorms are a possibility as we make our way towards the weekend, expecting highs in the 90s. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Range.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to everybody this hour by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And believe me, they know what they're doing, and they can help you. If you're involved in agriculture, manufacturing, food production, construction, whatever your business, please remember they are there to serve you with the best of accounting services in the Mini-Cash area. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. All right, we've got time for a couple of calls. Give me a jingle on the landline, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, brother. Now the Sonoma County Fair in California can't have a pig scramble anymore. No. The always knowing more than you and I do of rights activists have come out and said, nope, can't have that anymore. We're going to stop it. And they did. After decades of having a pig scramble at the California Sonoma County Fair, where children tried to catch 40 to 60-pound piglets for prizes, the humane treatment of animals with the HUSS and others came out and said, gotta stop it. It's just too hard on the piglets. And so therefore we're going to replace it with greased watermelons. What? Yeah, I'm not kidding you. So now the kids, instead of having a chance to get a pig in their 4-H and FFA, etc., they are told that they are going to have to carry in a race watermelons that are slopped up and slathered with vegetable oil around an obstacle course in a race against the clock. Oh, wow! Does that sound like fun? No. And it's just one more little example of where our county fairs, our rural culture, and our heritage, and the way things have been done correctly in this country for over 200 years are under siege by nincompoops and people with PETA and other organizations trying to come in and not only run, but destroy lives. Ay, ay, ay. We're going to have a pig scramble this year, kids. Listen to this. I know you're excited. We're going to have a greased watermelon race. Wow. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning. You know, you just call them. Just call them and make an appointment to go in there and sit down and tell them what you need for you, your family, and your business. They are very dedicated and responsive to your needs and devoted to serving you. So here's the number. You take the initiative to give them a call, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. You get a hold of those good people today. What do we got coming up next hour? We've got Dr. History. He's down in Utah, as a matter of fact. His daughter had a newborn baby, and they're down there as proud grandparents, but he's still going to be calling in to the program this next hour, so don't miss that. Want to remind you about Patterson's. Hello, Curtis and Lorena. Patterson's at 421 East Main in Burley. Oh, they are your electronic needs headquarters. They've got all the car stereos and the speakers. They've got all the complete sound systems. They've got those video surveillance cameras. You know, that's a good thing to have in the rural part of our country. All your electronic needs right there. Home theater systems, absolutely. Televisions, the list goes on. And they're having a closeout on power cords, and monster cables are just 50% off. Woohoo! They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6, and they're located at 421 East Main in Burley. Really good people serving you at Patterson's. You stop in and see them today. We're going to take a little run out of here for about 7 minutes and then come galloping back at 10:06 with Dr. History right here on Zeb at the Ranch. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Wheels, take it away. Oh, here we go. I love that piano on that opening of that music. Yeah, let it play, let it play. Thank you very much. Hey, we're brought to you by, of course, our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best of tires, the best of service for your safe driving. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And also some of our great advertisers, like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Don't forget, homemade meals and housekeeping are provided for the folks at Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living in Heyburn. This is a really nice place. And they'll even load you up when you have to go down to your doctor's appointments or get your hair done or whatever. But the best thing about Greystone Crossing, you're not alone. Greystone Crossing will be home to no more than 16 residents. And I'll tell you what, they're your friends. You've got your own room, you got your own bathroom, your own exterior entrance. All of this and 3 great meals a day. Wow, you better check it out, seniors. Call today for an appointment. Call Kelly and Matt Wiggins at 650-4979. That number again, 650-4979. And don't forget, Greystone Crossing Senior Living in Heyburn. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and normally he's right here across from me on the desk for the next segment, Dr. History, but today is a special day. He's down in Utah celebrating the birth of another grandchild. Hello, Dr. History. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning, Zeb. How you doing?
I am peachy wonderful. What's going on down in the Beehive State?
Well, as usual, road construction everywhere, but hey, that's normal down here. But got a beautiful little dark-haired little granddaughter, baby and mom doing great. So that's number 14 for us, grandchildren. So it's great. All is good.
Holy cow, 14 grandkids. I would hate to have your credit card at Christmas time.
I don't even dare look. My wife takes care of that.
Well, listen, even though you're long distance right now, what kind of words of wisdom are you going to share with us on Dr. History today?
Well, I'm going to talk about a group of men that have kind of been ignored and not really treated all that great, but and you don't really see much about these guys. It's called the Buffalo Soldiers.
Oh.
So the term Buffalo Soldier could be kind of interpreted as something bad rather than something to be admired. But to the black troopers who manned the frontier garrisons throughout the Indian Wars, it was actually accepted as a complimentary term.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the term actually is credited to the Indians who said that the black faces and the short hair of the black soldiers reminded them of the buffalo. And fittingly, the emblem of the black 10th Cavalry features the figure of a buffalo standing over a field that includes a war bonnet and crossed tomahawks. So that's how the term Buffalo Soldier came to be. Now, these troops, actually, they served honorably and played a very important role in the opening of the West, and sadly ignored in the records. But that role was, to some degree, kind of an accidental history thing. The original concept of black regiments grew out of political motives as much as from any genuine intention to elevate the black soldier. So there was kind of some ulterior motives behind this whole thing. So in a spirit of retaliation just after the Civil War, some of the Union's most vindictive leaders, they thought that nothing could be more humiliating to the defeated Southerners than to have their former slaves given police authority over them as occupation troops. So this placed the black soldiers in a kind of an uncomfortable and sometimes a dangerous position, because here they are over what maybe used to be one of their owners or their masters. So kind of a tricky situation there. But anyway, in July of 1866, Congress authorized the organization of all black military units. Now, there was a precedent because the 1st Regiment of South Carolina Volunteers had actually been organized during 1862 and 63, so 3 years earlier. But again, not from the purest of motives. And in fact, the thought expressed by at least one officer was that so long as the rebels were going to kill Union soldiers, in any case, he said, well, white lives to be spared if some of those killed were black. Before the war was over, almost 180,000 black soldiers served in the Union Army. 33,000 of them died. Now, I knew they had served, but I did not know it was that many of them that served in the Civil War there. Now, against the strong opposition of a lot of the prominent Union officers who had just fought a war to free the slaves, 4 black regiments were formed. 2 cavalry, the 9th and the 10th, and 2 infantry, the 24th and the 25th. And circumstances soon kind of changed the role of the black units as they were sent west to help fight the Indians, which was kind of ironic because they fought for freedom themselves, and yet here we go, they're going to fight against the Indians who were just trying to be free. But anyway, where the black soldiers did serve as occupation troops, in Texas, for example, they often suffered hatred and violence from the civilian population. In fact, one of the very first victims of Texas outlaw John Wesley Hardin was a black trooper. So Hardin boasted that he commanded the soldier to, quote, surrender in the name of the Southern Confederacy. And when he did not, Hardin just shot him. I mean, that's It's kind of what they were up against.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to interrupt you just for a quick second. I've been way too quiet too long. That's a first for me. But when these soldiers went through various towns, villages, etc., were they received to the point where they got the same kind of treatment, maybe at hotels or livery stables, etc.? What did they do?
They were still kind of ostracized, they were not treated well as they in anywhere they went, pretty much. So, yeah, it was kind of a sad deal because here they are fighting the Indians to make lives, make safer living for the whites. But anyway, it's kind of a sad deal in some ways. But the unfortunate legacy of civilian animosity toward the black occupation soldiers was handed down from generation to generation. And, well, really their genuine contribution to the safety of settlers from Indians was a lot of times just downgraded or not even recorded. So when they did do something good, sometimes the credit went to the white units, and in view of many at the time, it was not quite the right thing to attach important accomplishments to what they, quote, said, quote, was an inferior race. I mean, it's a sad deal because here they were brave, strong soldiers doing the best they could. And in fact, until very recent years, a reader of Western history found few references to indicate that at one time or another, during the post-war Indian fighting years, virtually every army post of any importance in the West was manned partly or entirely by black troops. So the Buffalo Soldiers for generations kind of remained the invisible men of the frontier history. And that's something that was kind of enlightening to me, that there were so many that actually manned entirely a fort in different places in the West. Now, despite the neglect, consider the record. Here's the record. 18 Congressional Medals of Honor for heroism were awarded to black soldiers during the relatively brief period of the Indian campaigns. And it stands to reason that for each heroic act that was recognized and rewarded, there were probably a lot of others that did not receive recognition, and they were just forgotten just because they were black. So there were probably more occasions where they should have received medals for their bravery. Now, consider the obstacles, okay? First of all, illiteracy was almost universal among the early black recruits, and in their previous condition of slavery, most had been discouraged or even expressly forbidden to learn to read and write. It was recorded that when the 9th Cavalry Regiment was organized, only one black trooper in it could read and write well enough to act as a sergeant major. But still, they came through. They really did. In some respects, it was their background of slavery that actually helped make them good soldiers, as the Army defined the term. So consider this. They were accustomed to taking orders without question. They were used to hard work and pretty much primitive conditions. Now, if $13 a month seems like poverty to the white recruits, that was really good to these Buffalo soldiers. And these were men that were just being paid much less, if anything at all. And another thing, they had military uniforms, they had housing and food, and this was also a step up from the average ex-slave. So especially the field hand, something he had never known. And once the regiments had passed through their shakedown, which I assume that means basic training, I guess, but the rate of desertion was only a fraction of that compared with the white units, such as Custer's 7th Cavalry. He lost a lot of guys to desertion.
Well, yeah, but if they had a crystal ball, can you blame them?
No. If you were with Custer, yeah, I'd say I'm going home for a little while. But ironically, the black regiments faced considerable discrimination and doubt from a lot of the Union officers who had led the fight to freedom. There was a Major General Carr. He actually refused a black regiment, declaring that blacks were not fit to be soldiers. He revised his opinion in 1869 when the H&I troops of the 10th Cavalry, with whom he was traveling, stood their ground and fought off a fierce attack by several hundred Cheyenne in a place called Beaver Creek in Kansas. So when he saw how well they fought, I think he changed his mind. Now, Custer was another one who actually declined to serve with black units. But his wife, Elizabeth, told the story. She says, an account of the 7th Cavalry's first Indian fight just outside of Fort Wallace, Kansas, in June of 1867. So obviously this was before the Little Bighorn. But anyway, a troop of the 7th Cavalry charged a large party of Cheyenne. They were met by a countercharge. Anyway, Elizabeth Custer, her story relates that a dozen black soldiers of the 10th happened to be at the fort to obtain supplies for an outpost. Well, when the battle started, they did not wait for orders. They jumped into a wagon. They had the whip popping over the heads of them 4 mules. Rifles were blazing. Those soldiers of the 10th charged out on the wheels and joined their white comrades in arms, and they drove the Indians off. So these were brave guys. But, you know, black units in those times had what's called black non-commissioned officers, but all the officers were white until there was a Lieutenant Henry O. Flipper, became the first black West Point graduate in 1877, and many of the officers, such as Colonel Benjamin Grierson, were kind to their troops. They displayed a genuine affection for them. Others, such as Colonel William Shafter, they were pretty rough on these guys. Now, I'm going to talk a little more about this Shafter guy. He commanded black troops during most of his years of frontier service, and he was pretty ruthless the way he handled them. He used them on very hard on many really tough campaigns, but he actually stood up firmly in their defense against civilian abuse. In fact, in Texas, he led black troops of the 9th into places that no white or black men had ever been before, and they suffered hardships and hunger and thirst. So it was rough on these guys. Now, despite his reputation as a ruthless disciplinarian, he got pretty mad when anyone abused his soldiers. Now, at Fort Davis, Texas, his black infantrymen guarded stations along the stagecoach route in Apache country. Now, elsewhere, white soldiers doing the same thing were allowed to ride a coach back to their permanent post after their tours of duty. But the line made the black troopers walk or even refused to allow them to eat at the stage stops because it might offend the white passengers. Well, this Colonel Shafter, he put an end to that by declaring that a soldier not good enough to enjoy common courtesy would not guard anyone's stagecoach or station. Anyway, his action kind of made some enemies, but his order prevailed. They were able to be treated equally. Now, his defense of the black trooper in another case led to an incident that kind of haunted his later military career. There was a sheriff that came onto the Fort Davis ground to arrest a soldier for being drunk. Well, Shafter reasoned that the trooper's color would automatically prevent his receiving fair treatment. So he ordered the sheriff off post, told him to get the heck out of there. Well, the soldier escaped punishment. The Shafter did not. There was a complaint that was lodged against him, and he was transferred because of the incident, and a mark was placed on his record that kind of handicapped him for years to come. Now, in the end, however, Shafter did prevail. He was an old Indian fighter and leader of black troops. He became Commander-in-Chief of U.S. Expeditionary Forces to Cuba in the Spanish-American War. Now, a similar advancement awaited another frontier commander of black troops, a guy named John J. Pershing, and his nickname was Black Jack. He led black and white troops across the Mexican border in pursuit of Pancho Villa. He later commanded the American forces in France during World War I. So I think I heard, do we have a listener?
Yeah, we have we'll take a real quick call, and it's going to be quick. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead quickly, please.
They ended up hanging up, sir.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Dr. History.
Okay. Anyway, one of the most unusual contributions by black troopers was with the battle with the Plains Indians. And it was made legendary with Seminole scouts who served mainly in Texas with guys like Colonel Ronald McKenzie. So the Seminole scouts were actually a mix of Indian and black blood. And a lot of them were part escaped slaves and the descendants of slaves who had fled into the Florida swamps to live with the Seminole Indians. So there was intermarrying and half black and half Indian, half Seminole. But anyway, after the Army defeated the Seminole Indians, they were moved to the west and driven into Indian territory and finally into Mexico, where they could not be pressed back into slavery. And though in appearance they were black, they were Indian in heritage. And as scouts, they were famed for their superior ability as hunters, trackers, and fighters. There was a Captain Frank W. Perry of the 9th Cavalry that went into Mexico in 1870 and invited the Seminole Indians, or the Seminole and black troopers or scouts, to return to the United States and serve as Army scouts. And land grants and homes for their families were to be their reward. Well, they served initially along the border, dressed more in Indian style than military. Some of them even wore a buffalo horn war bonnet. And under the command of Lieutenant John Bullis, the Seminole Scouts helped take Mackenzie on his famous raid against the Lipan and Kickapoo tribes deep in Mexico in 1873. Well, the following year, 21 Seminole Scouts did serve with Mackenzie in his victory over Comanche, Kiowa, Cheyenne. So in 1875, during a skirmish at a place called Eagle's Nest Crossing on the Pecos River, this Bullis, Lieutenant Bullis, was suddenly left afoot and at the mercy of some 25 or 30 Comanche Indians. Well, he had 3 Seminole Scouts, and they dashed to his rescue under heavy fire and carried him out through the middle of the Comanche ranks. Anyway, the 3 were among the 18 black recipients of the Congressional Medal of Honor. In the end, however, their services were no longer needed against hostile Indians, and once again, the Army broke their promise of land grants to the scouts and their families, so they ended up not really getting anything other than maybe the pay that they got. But anyway, again and again, opponents of the frontier black units charged that black soldiers would not fight. And again, from the Rio Grande to the Bighorns to the Buffalo soldiers proved them wrong. They did fight very courageously. The Western artist Frederick Remington wrote an article in 1889 describing his ride with black troopers in Apache country soon after the Apache campaigns had ended. And he said, quote, "I am often asked, will they fight?" And he said, that is easily answered. They have fought many, many times. So I hope this sheds a little light on the Buffalo Soldiers and what a huge influence they had on the West, taming the West and helping against the Indian campaigns that were going on at the time.
You know, Doc, let me ask you this, and I'm sitting here and I'm trying to rack my brain to remember the 2 movies. There were 2 movies made, one I think in the 50s and another one after that about the Buffalo Soldiers and our cavalry. I cannot remember the names of those movies.
Well, I don't either, and I like to say, if you look at Hollywood and movies and one thing and another, and even the history books, I don't think they give enough credit to the Buffalo Soldiers and their contribution. So, like I say, they've kind of gone under the radar for many years, and they deserve to be recognized for their great contribution.
One of the things I was going to ask you is, did ever a regiment of the Buffalo Soldiers, were they ever here in the Northwest or in Utah or Wyoming, any of these states?
You know, I did not find any direct references, but the fact that they served and manned some of the forts and garrisons, you know, they had to have come up this direction somewhere, up into Montana, Wyoming, Idaho. I'm sure it wasn't just all in the southern part of the country. But I have no record of exactly, again, the history does not tell us a lot about them.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, it was a very, very interesting program. And now let's talk a little bit about your ever-increasing family. 14 grandchildren. My goodness, you're beaming like a Cheshire cat.
Oh, it's great. And the oldest one is 14, so I've got them from 5 days old up to age 14, and I love every minute of it.
Oh, my goodness. I'll tell you what, well, you have a very enjoyable time with your family down there in Utah. What about next week? What are we going to talk about?
Well, I've got some stories in mind, so I actually have some ready.
Let me ask you, I was going to ask you one other quick question. When you started talking about $13 a month wage to the Buffalo Soldiers, could you at some point on one of your segments break down the costs of what things cost at a store or a surplus or a supply store? I mean, so that people can understand, maybe it was a nickel for this, maybe it was a quarter for that, maybe it was $1 for that, so they could see basically how far $13 might have gone.
yeah, I can do that. I've seen that in a few places.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do her.
Well, Dr. History, God bless you. Did it again. Have a safe journey back home.
All right. Talk to you later, Zeb.
All right. Thank you very much. There you go, Dr. History. Listened to in many, many countries around the world. And I'll tell you what, I always look forward to his segment. You're going to learn something when you listen to Dr. History. Want to remind you, too, about our friends over at Redder's. Oh, my goodness, Redder's Showcase is having a great big indoor tent event, up to 50% off. Woohoo! And up to 12 months, same as cash on approved credit. Listen to these buys. I mean, holy moly, you can't afford to pass it up. Dishwashers starting at just $3.29. Ranges starting at $3.99. And believe me, they've got the best deals under the tent, and they proudly sell American-made products. Up to 12 months is same as cash on approved credit. Like I said, you better get in there today. Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley, for their great big giant indoor tent event going on right now. Super good people serving you at Redder's Showcase. We're going to take a little break in a moment and then come back with David Rubin, a former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, and author of the book Trump and the Jews. I cannot wait to get him on the air this morning and find out more. And Wheels, again, we're having limited ability to hear what's going on the air this morning. Evidently, the feed line is not up to where it should be. If you could, please, during the break, boost that a little bit. We're having a hard time. And right now, we're going to send it back over to you. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KVAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much. And don't forget our dear friends at Dino's Septic Service. They do a job that you and I don't want to do. We don't want to be standing out there on a hot day pumping out a septic tank or cleaning out sewer and sink drain lines. No. They do, and they do it well. Dino's Septic Service. They are recently bigger and better to serve you all over southern Idaho, so please give them a call today for backhoe services, septic tanks and drain fields installed, septic inspections, liquid waste removal, all of this. Just give them a call, 436-6526, or in Burley, 678-1638. Fast, fair, friendly service with that big truck that says smells cargo on the way. Dino's Septic Service. I have been anticipating getting this gentleman on the program for the last couple of days, and I'm really excited to say a good morning to a former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, and the author of the book Trump and the Jews. David Rubin, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. Good to be with you, Zeb.
Well, it is my pleasure, and I want to get a little background on David Rubin. I've heard a lot about you and your past and what you're doing in your book, Trump and the Jews, but you, and I believe it was your 3-year-old son, were wounded in a terror attack. I would love to have you give us a little insight as to how horrific that was.
Well, certainly. I was coming back from Jerusalem, driving back in my car. I had my 3-year-old son sitting behind me in the baby seat. Suddenly there was a massive hail of bullets on the car by Islamic terrorists from the Palestinian Authority, by the way, who were on the side of the road with AK-47 assault rifles, and they were shooting at the car. I felt a bullet crash into my left leg. I was shot in the leg. My son, I did not realize at the time until we finally got to safety, my son was shot in the head.
Oh.
A bullet had gone into his head where the skull meets with the neck, causing a skull fracture, internal bleeding in the cerebellum. And they wrapped his head with bandages when we finally got to the ambulance, and they took us to the hospital. We survived the attack, I might add. And, it was a terribly traumatic experience, what can I say? But we survived, and the bullet that went into his head missed his brainstem by 1 millimeter.
Oh, my.
So it was a miraculous survival. And as a result of that terrorist attack, I started the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund for the purpose of healing the trauma of the terror victim children and restoring some of the lost innocence to their lives. Now, you have to realize, my son and I were just 2 individuals out of several thousand individuals who've been killed or wounded in terrorist attacks over the past number of years, past couple of decades. And, this is all Israeli civilians. And it's all carried out against us by the Palestinian Authority or by Hamas. And this is something that I felt I had to counter, not with violence, but with love and care for the children.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my hats that I wear, which is our therapeutic and educational projects for children in the biblical heartland of Israel.
David, I cannot relate to what you live in or have lived in or what you lived through. But all of this, you're just driving down the road with your son, not doing anything, not creating any problems for anyone, and all of this activity and this heinous crime for one word: hate. Hate. Why in the world is there so much hate in that region?
Well, there are a lot of Muslims in the region. I might add. Look, there are Muslims that we have good relationships with, but the problem is when you have radical Islam, which has taken full hold of the Palestinians. Those who call themselves Palestinians. It's actually an invented term. It was invented by the Romans about 2,000 years ago, but it had nothing to do with Arabs, nothing to do with Muslims, until they felt that it could be politically expedient to call themselves Palestinians. But the hatred is there in the concept of jihadist Islam. Believing that they have to carry out holy war against all non-Muslims, as well as some Muslims who believe in peace and prosperity and cooperation. So that's where the issue really lies, and that's why it's so intense in the Middle East.
Let me ask you this question, and then I want to get into the chapter and verse of your book and find out more. But with the Rashida Tlaibs, the Ilhan Omars, and others becoming public servants, supposedly, in our government, and also the Muslim Brotherhood that was very, very prominent during the Obama administration, what are your concerns about what an imam had said years ago on ABC television about how he in his lifetime thought they'd see the Muslim flag flying over the Capitol?
Well, unfortunately, those who believe in jihadist Islam, that's what they believe in. That's what they want. That's their goal. There's an organization called CAIR, which spells it CAIR. It's actually the Council of America Islamic Relations. Well, the chairman of the board of CAIR said in an interview that went very public, and I don't know if it was intended to go public, but he said very clearly, we are not in America to become part of America. We're in America to transform America into an Islamic civilization. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but that's the gist of it. And that is the goal of people like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. And people need to know that. People need to know that is what they believe in. And people need to know that they support the Hamas terrorist organization. And people need to know that their talk about, the vile way that they speak about the President of the United States, President Trump, who really has been doing a great job when it comes to foreign policy, certainly, in addition to his economic accomplishments. But when they slander him and they call him names and curses, people need to know, average Americans need to know, that it comes from their deeply rooted radical Islamic philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell us a little bit about the beginning of your thoughts on Trump and the Jews. Why did you write this book, and what's the general theme of the book?
Well, when President Trump came into office, I noticed that there was a lot of name-calling going on. And true, during the campaign, President Trump was quite aggressive, and he did his own share of name-calling. But after the election, the hatred towards the president and the violence, even just in the first week, even on the day of the inauguration, where people were, had these far leftists smashing windows of buildings in Washington, D.C., and it just became clear to me that something is not right here. Something doesn't click. And then I heard some Jewish liberals or far leftists who were also speaking against President Trump and were accusing him of anti-Semitism. And I said, this doesn't make sense. Here's a president who has spoken so proudly about his caring for Israel, and has spoken extensively about his relationships with Jews in New York as a businessman. So I didn't understand it, and I wanted to explore it and really research it, because a lot of people were asking me the question, well, how do you explain that President Trump is so good for Israel, and how President Trump has strengthened the relationship between the United States and Israel, something that Jews usually have cared about, American Jews, and how do you explain all this in the context of Jews like Chuck Schumer and other well-known Jewish individuals in America who are vehemently anti-Trump? And so as I researched it, I found that President Trump's accomplishments have been even greater than most people know about in terms of strengthening that relationship between Israel and America, two great allies, and that American Jews, the reason why they are the way they are, and I don't want to get into the whole thing, is that the majority of American Jews are disconnected from their roots, and when you have a vacuum, something always comes in to fill the vacuum. That what has come in is this extreme liberalism, is doctrinaire, dogmatic liberalism, which is very incongruous when you look at what Judaism really speaks about. And those Jews who are very connected to their roots tend to be very strongly pro-Trump. So the whole topic is fascinating, and I said that I want to explore it, and I want to research it, and I want to reveal it to the public.
David, let me ask you this. Would it be fair to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the deterioration of respect for Israel and the Jewish people really started to go downhill during the Obama administration?
Oh, absolutely. I have a whole chapter in Trump and the Jews about President Obama and what he did, the things that he did towards Israel. And, he came into office planning to improve America's ties with the Islamic world. That was it seemed that was his number one goal. And, as bizarre as it is, he even spoke to Charles Bolden, who was the head of NASA, and he told him, right at the beginning of his term, he told him that one of the main goals of NASA should be to help Muslim children in Islamic nations to feel good about their accomplishments, the accomplishments of the Muslim world in math and science. Is that the goal of the President of the United States? It just seemed very strange. But going hand in hand with that was this anti-Israel stream, which became stronger and stronger, and President Obama's hostility towards Israel goes way back before he was, several years before he was even elected president. And, you know, people didn't talk about that too much in the media, but it was real.
Let me ask you this question. What if Donald Trump does not make re-election? What if we get one of the Democrats, be it Joe Biden or, God help us, Pete Buttigieg or Kamala Harris? What if? What are your thoughts about what might happen not only to American-Israeli relationships, but in general in this country?
Well, first of all, my fellow Israelis would be very disappointed because Trump is very popular here in Israel. But what would it mean for America's relations with the world as a whole? Look, President Trump has projected strength, something that hasn't been done for years. He projects strength, he projects American pride, and that's all a good thing. When you look at the Democrats, you see weakness. And I'm telling you as one who lives here in the Middle East, which is about the worst neighborhood in the world, and I mean, even though I love being in Israel, but if you look at the Middle East, you know that you have to be strong. And if you project weakness, then that's how the radicals in the Muslim world will take advantage of you. And that's why Obama was kind of pulled into that Iran deal, you know, because he and Secretary of State Kerry projected weakness. And the Iranians knew it. And that's why it was such a bad deal.
Let me ask you this final thought here this morning, and then I want to talk about where the book can be found and purchased. But, David, our school systems seem to be really lax in teaching the history that these kids need to know today on perhaps mistakes that were made in the past so that we don't relive those mistakes again in the future. But Israel being our strongest friend and ally in that region, but there seems to be a growing disrespect by a generation that doesn't appreciate what Israel means to the United States. If you could change it, how would you start with the school systems?
Well, the school system needs to be based on values. You know, and that's a term that's tossed around a lot, but sometimes it's tossed around and they don't really know what it means. But the values of the United States are based in the Judeo-Christian heritage. And America seems to have moved away from that quite a bit. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to go back to church, as they say, or to synagogue. What I am saying is that those values have to be values that guide people, because America became a great country based on those values, based on the Ten Commandments, based on the beliefs that the founders of the United States stood for, and those who changed and improved the United States afterwards, you know, like Abraham Lincoln and then non-presidents like Martin Luther King. All those people, they based what they did on Christian values that are based on the Judeo-Christian heritage and the Hebrew Bible. So I think that's where it all starts. You have to find a way to transmit those values, and maybe America's not ready to teach religion in the public schools, but certainly some of the basic values of that heritage can be transmitted without violating any sort of church-state separation.
Absolutely. Tell us about the book, Trump and the Jews, David Rubin. Where can people find your book?
It's very simple. I always direct people to go to Amazon.com and just type in the words Trump and the Jews.
Okay. David, I thank you so much for taking the time to come on my program and share with us your thoughts, and I hope you'll come back in the future. Thank you very much.
Well, thank Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Very interesting man, and I have seen him on television and heard him on various national programs, etc. David Rubin, former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, and again, the author of the book Trump and the Jews. Very interesting man. Thank you very much. Isn't it interesting that we can get people from all over the globe? The mayor of Shiloh, Israel, David Rubin, and others, but yet we can't get Idaho Power to come on? Interesting. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, time for the weather, brought to you by Scarro's Meats. Don Scarrow and his excellent staff at 331 North Road, Jerome, and you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, and see all the delicious meats available to you, your family, your business picnic, and your family reunions, everything. Oh, my. Give them a call, 324-7657. All the different bacons and the marinated pork ribs and of course, the tri-tips, you name it, it's all there for you, and it is great. We'll tell you more about Scarro's Meats right after Gina and the weather.
Red flag warning is in effect for today through this evening. Here's what's your weather forecast, and we are in a red flag warning due to the possibility of thunderstorms, possible lightning strikes as we make our way towards the afternoon. We are expecting partly sunny skies, and it's going to be on the warm side, high of 93. We are expecting an overnight low of 63. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, cooling off to about 88, mostly clear for tomorrow night with a low of 55. And then for the rest of the week, looks like sunny skies. Slight chance of afternoon thunderstorms are a possibility as we make our way towards the weekend, expecting highs in the 90s. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zep at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina, and be careful out there. Please, if you're working hard outside, make sure to drink a lot of water or maybe even go stand in the sprinkler or whatever. Don't forget Scarro's Meats, Don Scarrow and his excellent staff at 331 North Road, Jerome. All the delicious meats. I've got to get a hold of Don and get some more of those breakfast sausages and bratwurst. Great. Scarro's Meats in Jerome, changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. Got time for a call. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to remind you, while I'm waiting for your call, that this Thursday is Lunch Bunch Day at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, America's Diner. And we're going to be there at 11:30 for our lunch bunch. Bring your neighbors, bring your relatives, everybody come on down. We're looking forward to having you there. And we want to thank also our gift certificate donors, and they are Walmart, Smith's Foods, Hanson Mortuary, Stokes Groceries, Doug Martin, and Denny's. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do. We appreciate it. That's coming up Thursday this week at 11:30 at Denny's. While I've got a moment, while I'm waiting for your call to come in, I also want to say a big shout-out to our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I mean, all 7 doing a phenomenal job in serving you and your family. And they offer what's called a free pre-trip safety check. Say that fast 5 times. Free pre-trip safety check. And they'll check the pressure of your tires, your wheel alignment for tire wear, front end components, shocks and struts, the battery with the load test, the brake components. They want you to go on a road trip and turn around and come back safe. Absolutely. And don't forget too, they've got all your tires. I mean, all the sizes, all the tread designs, everything for your cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever. You just need to stop in. And they believe in the best in service to you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Trent on Overland in Burley. There is nobody better. than your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. What have we got tomorrow? We've got Dave Bigo. We've got an attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation. And, let's not forget, too, we got the Old Fishing Hole, sponsored by Sportsman's Warehouse at 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. That's coming up with Josh Anderson at 10:06 tomorrow. I have no idea what river or stream he's going to be fishing in, but that's at 10:06 tomorrow. Caller, I've got a minute left. Go ahead, please.
Well, I'll tell you what, Zeb, if you study what Oregon is doing environmentally, and there is no logical sense to any of it, and it's crushing truckers, loggers, farmers, ranchers, dairymen, and Kate Brown is determined to enact this stuff even if she has to do an executive order. And Inslee is worse. California is bankrupt, and they've got all these pensions that they can't pay. And I just, let's just hope that when California comes begging, Donald Trump is president, and he says, well, tough luck, you poor, terrible, whatever you want to call them. It's unbelievable.
The neighborhood in the Northwest, be it Washington with Inslee or Oregon or California, whatever, we're starting to live in kind of a neighborhood that is hopefully not going to pilfer its way into the state of Idaho.
Well, it's just like it's already happening with Idaho Power, as you've proven. And you have friends in high places, thank God. So, I tell you what, Zeb, they're behind the scenes running the show. They don't ever want to have this light showing on their faces, but they just soon burn the forest down, raise the electricity rates, shut down everything that's good, shut down. They don't even want farmers to farm, ranchers. Hell, we're not even supposed to be raising cattle. I mean, these people will all end up dead.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got to make some changes before chaos becomes the main word of the day. Randy, I'm out of time, but God bless you and your family, and thanks for your call, and thanks for all your help, too. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Gotta leave. It's end of the program time, where we always say the way things were, the way things ought to be, and the world needs more cowboys. But on our program, we started this not too long ago, and we're going to keep on saying it. Our national motto on Zeb at the Ranch every day when we close up shop, we say we'll be back tomorrow morning at 8:06, and in God we trust. We'll see you tomorrow morning.